Okay, so welcome to Finance and Committee meeting for December 2024. Dale Marie, will you grace us? Thank you.
Tina tātou anō, ai he karakia mō ngā atua katoa o ngā atua Māori. Ko rangi, ko papa. Ko rangi, ko papa, ka puta, ko rongo, ko tāne mahuta, ko tangarot, ko tūmatauinga, hurmia tiki tike, ko tāwhiri mātia. Tokono rā, ko rangi ki runga, ko papa ki raro, ka puta, te ira tangata, ki te whaiao, ki te ao mārama, ti hei mauri ora. Tina tātou.
Thanks, Dale Marie. Okay, apologies. I have one from our mayor and I believe everyone else is here. So could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Claire. Thank you, Mike. All in favour? Contrary, no. It's carried. Disclosure of members' interests? No, not expecting any. That's all good. And no late items? No, thank you. Confirmation of order of the meeting. Quite a short meeting, so shouldn't be too much of a problem. Lou, thanks. Bruce, seconded. All in favour?
Aye.
Contrary, no. That's carried also. So move to the confirmation of the minutes from 26 November. And they are on pages 8 through to somewhere or other. Don't get to the end. Happy to, thanks, Claire. That's awesome. And a seconder. Yep. Thanks, Monty. All in favour. I'll get you next time, Roger. Aye. All in favour, say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. It's carried. Okay, moving to the 4-month report to 31 October. Yolanda today. Given Nada a bit of time off.
Yeah, she's not here today. So yeah.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. So this is the 4-month report until the end of October. We have discussed changes or to the budgets in terms of revenue as well as operating and capital projects. As we went along with the LTP budgets, so this is formalising the 4-month report. We have 3 requests for approval from the committee. One relating to, the Cambridge wastewater treatment plant budget being brought forward. This is due to timing of the project, 1.624 million for another project, also a growth project funded from development contribution. So again, timing of the development, and then a $500,000 for the district-wide wastewater pipe upgrades, which will be loan funded, and that is a transfer from another project, the feasibility project, which will be picked up in year 1 of the LTP. I think I'll take the rest of the report as read for the financial section. If Amy, do you have something that you'd like to highlight on the performance? So we'll take the report as read and take questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for that. And I'd just like to comment that the explanations for the variances are, really good as has been the practice for years. So that's great. But I'll ask for questions. Roger has a question. Roger.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm on. That's good. Yeah, it's a question of timing. I've got no objections with all of the changes that are in there, but this report is dated for the 4 months ending the 31st of October. And yet the changes in terms of the capital projects and the changes to revenue that were done as a result of the initial report showing a 795,000 deficit. That decision was not put in front of council until the 3rd of November. So it's just a question of whether it's correct that a decision that was made or approved, because of course it was a workshop, but we did in fact, that was the first time we saw it, so that was the first time we viewed and approved it, was actually that timing was after the date of the publication of this report. I'm just wondering, there's actually no mention that I could see on reading this report that a deficit was initially reported. And it's just a question of timing. No problem with the action that was taken from that.
Yeah, so Ken, so look, I take your point, I think, in terms of the deferral of the capital items. I suppose, you know, that's in terms of the actual report itself, though, those numbers are what they were to the end of October. I don't think there's any issue with the financial statements, but Ken, you can.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Councillor. Yeah, look, I'm struggling to see, Councillor, what the issue is here. So, yeah, I mean, essentially today's report, I mean, it very much follows normal process. So, look, this is a 4-monthly report to the end of October. Yeah, the bulk of that, you know, the work in relation to arriving at the position and the results reported in this report were determined over the month of November. Okay, so even though it's an October reforecast, yeah, that information is coming in from right across the business over the you know, to be fair, probably over the first couple of weeks of November. Now we have given you an update, and in fact it was actually a very public update that the first cut of this reforecast you know, caused some problems for us in terms of debt headroom. So for that reason, the reforecast process this time around it was elongated. It took longer than normal. So it did take us you know, probably the majority of November to land in the position that you are seeing here. Now we did, I mean, to a certain extent, we did jump ahead a little bit with, you know, obviously with a workshop session on the LTP, and that workshop session on the LTP, that was obviously informed to a good extent by the information that's in this report in front of you. Yeah, we needed to keep moving with that LTP. Yeah, we didn't want to slow the LTP down so that we could report this result here at Finance and Corporate, and then have to wait to be able to re-pick up the LTP. So look, it's you know, it is a fluid. It has been a fluid situation, and yes, look, except that it is perhaps a little bit surprising that we've kind of picked up on the results of this reforecast early in the LTP context before closing it out with this committee. That wouldn't normally have happened. But it was just a function of timing. Look, the other thing I would just observe is, you know, today, other than the recommendation that Yolanda's just set out in regard to 3 budget changes that resulted in an increase this year, other than that aspect, which we are obviously looking for a resolution from, yeah, this report is information only, and in fact is always just information only. So we report back to you, you know, the results of a 4-monthly and an 8-monthly forecast. We don't necessarily seek a resolution, except for where there is a budget change which results in an increase for the current year of greater than $500,000. And you can see that there's 3 projects, and in fact Yolanda's just explained the context of those 3 projects. So yeah, so look, you know, nothing untoward intended here, but look, largely what we've got is an elongated reforecast process because of our debt headroom concerns, and essentially, obviously, alongside that and parallel with that, an LTP process, and of course the flip side of what you're seeing here in terms of a whole lot of capital expenditure being reforecast out of the current year, and is that it's going into the LTP. So it was really important that we kind of pre-shared this in the LTP context, because it does result in changes there. So yeah, look, that's quite a lengthy response. But look, I hope that that does clarify the situation.
Oh, look, I mean, I understand all of the changes that were made, and I've got no problem with any of the deferral of the assets or any of the changes, but I'm just surprised that there's no mention that the initial reforecast actually showed a deficit, which I'm just wondering whether, in terms of the formal reporting, there actually needs to be some mention that in fact there was a deficit when initially.
Look. Sorry, Roger. I didn't. In my very, very lengthy explanation, actually, I was picking up much more and referring much more to the changes in the capital expenditure. But look, you are quite right. Look, the other thing that we did publicly reveal, of very recent days, was that another outcome of this reforecast process is an estimate or a forecast of a general funds cash deficit at the end of this financial year. The exact number is 790. It's actually 797,000. Roger, was the quoted number. Look. So sorry, that's a different thing that's happening, and came about as a result of this forecast. So there was quite a significant capital expenditure movement, and then there was some general funds cash deficit. Now, what that is so there's a number of activities of council, and in fact they are waters, transport, pension, housing, and forestry. There's only 4 activities of council that are ring fence. So I mean, obviously, those sit out to the side. The general funds, cash position is the result of the revenue and expenditure in relation to all the other activities of council, other than those 4 that I've just mentioned. Now, in recent years, we've usually ended up, when we've done a forecast, we've ended up in a surplus position. In fact, often a surplus of up to a couple $1 million or so, or certainly $1 million to $2 million. In this particular forecast, we have landed at a deficit at the moment. Now there is still plenty of this year left. In fact, over half of this year left. We will have to be really actively monitoring and managing that, because our preference is that as we planned at the start of the year is to break even in that space. We never ever intend to make a surplus such as what we have in the past. We also never intend to make a deficit. We always our plan is always to break even. But look, this is a really large and complex organisation with all sorts of things going on. We will just have to manage that over the second half of this financial year, to hopefully bring that 797,000 back down. But look, it is also, even in that situation, look, it is a pretty fluid situation. So that figure as well was very much a cumulative figure. So we do carry forward deficits and surpluses in that general fund cash position in between years. So that's actually quite a normal thing as well.
Yeah, I understand all of what you said, Ken. My question was just timing and transparency. So
right.
That's what my concern is.
Yes.
Transparency and
yeah. So Ken, is it right that the bulk of that deficit comes from our reduction in income from subsidies and fees and licenses? And we've actually made some savings in the operating expenses area, because I think that was about 3 million
yes
reduction in income.
Yeah, so look, if you want to, and Chair, if you do want to go into what the components of that cash deficit are, I know that Yolanda has got that info at her fingertips if you want to go there. But yes, look, there was and in fact you can probably actually see the major, you know, as you said, there's explanations in this report for various reforecasting changes, including ones that impact into that 797,000 deficit. So yes, there is definitely there's definitely been a reforecasting down of our consenting revenue. I think there was around about $400,000. So I mean that's obviously quite a significant component in there. But look, there's some ups and downs in other revenue areas and expenditure as well. So yeah, look, Yolanda could talk to that if you want to. But like I say, a lot of the answers are already there on the face of the report and the explanations.
Yeah, okay, look, I feel that's reasonably well canvassed, so clear.
I've got a different question, but just on whether or not we should report a possible cash deficit at this point in the reporting cycle. I'm not sure, because usually it's only at the annual report stage that we actually, because as you said, it's a fluid situation. Yeah, we've still got a lot of the financial year ahead of us. Yeah. My question was actually about the resolution about the funding requests and budget changes, just that second bullet point on the C10 Victoria Road Southern Roundabout and New Collector Road, so $1.6 million. It says this is funded from development contributions. I'm just checking, those are development contributions we actually have in hand. So it's because like if it might be funded from development contributions in the future that we collect, but we're actually expecting to do the work this financial year or like 25, 26. Oh, sorry, it is 24, 25. Yeah, then we might have to loan fund it in the meantime.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
Claire, I think what we tried to say there was it's not a loan that is going to sit on council's balance sheet. It's a DC loan, so it will be paid by development contributions in the future, 100% correct. So it's just how we distinguish between a loan that's going to sit on our books or whether it's a DC loan.
Yeah, and so
It will still impact our debt headroom.
exactly.
Yes,
So
it will.
that's the point I was going to get to. Will it impact our debt? And so where is the report that says these are all the changes that impact our debt headroom?
Yep. So look, it's very important to note because I mean, you are quite right. There's $1.6 million of debt on our balance sheet that was not budgeted to be on our balance sheet this year. But obviously, what you need to remember is that there's $60 million going the other direction. So we pushed out $60 million of capital works in rough order, and out of this current year and into next year. So and so this 1.6 million, just like actually the 9.3 million above it, Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant. Obviously, we took account of both these things coming forward. At the same time, stuff was a much greater amount was going out. And then actually, Councillor Clare specifically in answer to your question in terms of what does this mean for our debt headroom, there's probably no better place to see that than on page 9 of this report, which is page 26 of the agenda. So just give you a moment to jump to page 26 of the agenda. So so what you can see there, so I'm looking at the top right hand corner, which is our LGFA covenant provision graph, and you can see that we are now, as a result of this reforecast, we are now projecting net debt. This is because it's the covenant, it's the net debt of $373 million by 30 June next year. Our limit is $390.127950 million. So in fact, actually, we have actually got we've got headroom there of $17 million. That is after all forecast changes, including those two items coming forward.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, looking at that graph, it's firstly, I'd really like the 17 million headroom actually as a number so that councillors don't have to do the maths in their heads.
Okay, fair enough.
Therefore, our headroom is 17 million. But also, you're right, it is reported in the general text, you know, the contents of this report, but I just love it on one page. This stuff's going out for future years. This stuff's coming back. These are, you know,
Right.
budget adjustments. Therefore, these are the overall net changes. Like just on one page and one table. I mean, because at the moment we are approving those budget changes, so we're accountable for that. Like staff are saying, you guys need to be across this. These are the changes, and we approve them, and we've done workshops about it. We understand it, but you know, further down the track, when suddenly we find we may have, you know, used up all our headroom. How did that happen? How did that happen? Like these are the reports that would show us, right? You guys know what you're doing here. Like, that's impacting it and you're agreeing to it. Yeah.
Can I interrupt for just a sec? On page 21, items 2 and 3 actually detail exactly the 9.3 and the 1.6, and then in item 2 and in item, sorry. They were item 2 and 2, I just noticed. So in the second item 2, it's all the things that have gone the other way. And so I did a little number myself just for my, you know, and I got 16 minus, So, you know.
I mean, could we have it like, so
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
can see how it's added up?
That
in the
makes
totals?
sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that. Because I'm not that great on mental arithmetic. Yeah, and it'd be really good if it was
That's all
just
good.
in a table and you know it's been added up and you can see what the total is.
Yeah.
This is a
Okay.
plus, that's a minus, that's the net result.
Yeah. Okay, so look, let's so finance team, let's take these comments on board and just see what we can do in terms of being clearer in terms of the totals. And look, I think it is a good point as well, councillor, that you made a few moments ago in regard to that again back on page 26, that top right hand table, to actually state exactly what the debt headroom is, rather than you have to yank out a calculator or do some stuff in your head to determine that.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Mike, Monty.
I have a general question for you, Ken, and it's just a spit. This calendar year has been a little bit of a wild ride financially, and so in preparation for this, just driving in, I was sort of contemplating what we could do about that, and I was wondering if there is scope next year to kind of revisit what and when is being reported to F&C and audit and risk. Given the really, really confined place we're operating in with debt headroom and affordability and so on. And I wanted to just ask CFO if you thought that could be appropriate and how we might do it. I was thinking organisational excellence, CFO, finance team, maybe a bit of audit and risk could get together and just sort of make sure that our reporting is optimised and forward-looking enough that it was going to assist us in this really constrained environment and take away the wild ride as much as possible.
For sure.
Do you think there is scope for some optimisation in what we're reporting and when we're reporting it, and to which committee to get this better next year?
Yeah, look, I think there's always room for improvement, councillor. So absolutely. I mean, our reporting, has evolved over time, actually, particularly in that audit and risk committee space. The risk reporting, I mean, you've seen some quite significant, improvement and optimisation of the reporting in that space. To be fair, in terms of this report, with the monthly finance report and the 4 and the 8 monthly report, look, there's been there has been a wee bit of development. And in fact, the key risk indicator report and the debt affordability and the development contributions data that you're looking at, those graphs, those are new over the last little while, obviously. So absolutely always room for improvement. I mean, one thing as well that I guess I am sometimes a bit concerned about when I look at this report. I mean, it's a 79-page report. this 4-monthly report. And I know, I mean, thank you, Chair. You said that we offer up really quite robust explanations, but yeah, and I think they are robust explanations. But I am also aware there is a bit of duplication in those explanations as well, like the key ones on the statement of comprehensive income are actually in 2 different places. So they're brought up front in detail, and then they're in the report in detail, and then in fact actually some of them are actually probably duplicated as well through the costs of service statements. So look, there's probably some real room there for streamlining some of that down, as well as perhaps the introduction of other stuff that is quite critical information as well. So yeah, so looking at, I mean, that's a really long answer to your question, Mike, but yes, there is definitely room for optimization. I think there's room for trimming some stuff down, as well as space for actually introducing new information that is of value at the governance level, because I mean that's what this should be about. Where either at the governance level or at the public transparency level, bearing in mind that these reports that are coming through this committee are available to the public as well.
Okay, I really like what I'm hearing there. And I'm not asking for more. I'm just asking that it just strikes me there's room for a comprehensive review of what's going to what committee and when. And it's not more work, it's just getting it right. Because at the moment, I've got to be honest, this reporting is not exactly working for me. And I don't think it's working for this table, and it's not making us think about the right things at the right time, looking in the right direction necessarily. So I look forward to that.
Yes, no, that's fine. And through the chair, look, I picked up on your word optimisation. So yes, I realise you're not looking for a whole lot more, but you're looking for it to be optimal information. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Lou and
I totally concur with what Councillor Montgomery said. I'm right behind you on that. It has been a wild ride. Do you think, Ken, the internal insurers advisor will have a role in actually locating some of these problems and highlighting them and putting them in the right direction?
Oh,
I know what his job is, and we've known that, but having that person in that role, going through this and being able to perhaps just highlight issues before they actually come to our committee, because we've actually granted this, haven't we? The appointment of an internal insurance advisor. So would that role also incorporate some of those issues?
Yeah, so look, potentially, but maybe not. So so look, a big and I don't know if you've got any comment, George, but look, a large part of that role was around process improvement, and I mean you could argue that potentially this touches on the process improvement, but look, the person who's been appointed into that role is certainly not a financial expert, and I think when it comes to sort of financial reporting and even to a certain extent performance reporting, we do have other subject matter experts in the organisation. So look, this is we've appointed that role. That's a really important role. That role, the Audit and Risk Committee have actually signed off on a yearly program already. It's quite a significant yearly program, but look, that is all or very largely about process improvement in a whole bunch of areas. And for example, a piece of work that we have got that new resource to prioritise is the whole vested assets space, as you're well aware of. For the last couple of years, the last couple of annual reports, audits, we've run into some issues with our recognition of vested assets. So we have tasked that resource to jump in to do a really deep dive of the processes that take place there, because there are some quite complex processes, and a lot of working right across the organisation. There's several people involved in those processes. So Janice is working really closely with all those teams to nut out a really good process that will mean that we avoid those issues. So look, the role adds a huge amount of value in that space. I'm just not sure the role would add a lot of value in this space necessarily. But look, George, I see you've moved to a microphone. The position you're talking about does report up through George, so we're really happy to hear her thoughts as well.
Yeah, I don't think actually now that you've finished, Ken, I've got anything further to add. It's more about process and process controls and the management of risk across those processes. So looking at controls across finance processes, but not necessarily performance and monitoring, if that makes sense. Yeah.
As I say, I can understand the vested interest and the fact that it's a timing issue in a lot of cases with vested interest. But as I say, I just wanted to develop that a little bit in front of everybody and just see, because we do need to have more knowledge prior to things happening. I think that's a key issue, and I don't think anybody here would disagree with that.
Claire, you had.
Yes. Yeah, thanks. I've just got some specific questions on parts of the report. Yeah, so looking on, just trying to see what page that is. Right, so on page 29 of our report, or that's page 12 of the report itself, it shows development contributions under the operating income, and I noticed that they weren't reforecast, and yet only 25% have been collected, even though we should be at 33%. So I just wondered, was reforecasting that downwards considered? Is there comfort around just keeping it as is, because it's quite a big number, like 14 million is what we're hoping to collect overall. So if it does fall short, it's going to impact. Yeah, so just checking on that.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Tony. At the time, he was of the opinion that we leave it as it was. Although we only at 25% in terms of the building cycle, he felt confident not to change it at this stage. It will be revisited with the 8-month report.
Yeah, that's cool. And then on page 37 of the agenda, this is the sort of the non-financial reporting. It talks about the digital platforms. So we've got this page 20 of the report. It's just that it'd be really good to have trend reporting. So if we could have a comparison with previous years, it'd be quite helpful, because that would give us an idea then, of how things are going. Now, of course, we've had quite a revamp of how we're operating in the digital platforms recently. Yeah, with, I suppose, reducing the number of Facebook posts or stuff like that. I don't know, but I just find it quite helpful. Yeah, if we've got something to compare it with. Yeah, so any comments or possibility of looking at that in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have various trend reports that we can insert in there to pop some visuals alongside those stats.
Yeah, although that's great. And then on the performance measures themselves, quite a few of them weren't achieved for, I suppose, our enforcement or teams. Like I'm looking at page 40, what was it? I think it's 48 of our agenda. And for instance, the percentage of smoke complaints investigated within 1 hour supposed to be 95%, and that it was 70% was all that was achieved. Now, I do recall that we changed the arrangement for after hours calls for a lot of these things, where we're in with Hamilton City now, I think. And I'm just wondering, perhaps that isn't working as well as we thought it might. That's all, because there's a number of them that, the complaints aren't investigated within that time. And like some of these things are pretty frustrating for our ratepayers or our residents if, they have to make a complaint, but, doesn't get resolved or people don't turn up. So I'm just conscious of the need to make sure, like pretty sure there's a contract change. Yeah. And we need to make sure it is working. Yeah.
Yeah, so this sits in the compliance space, and there has certainly been some deterioration and some technical difficulties which have resulted in the reporting itself not coming in, or the quality of reporting. So that's not necessarily to say that the
calls weren't responded to or actioned within the timeframes. It's just that we're unable to confirm that via the reporting. So, so therefore we have to change the response times in the system, as if we were to be audited on that, we wouldn't necessarily be able to withstand that scrutiny as we don't have that reporting available. But yes, it is something that is very much being monitored closely by the compliance team. So they are monitoring that contract and their obligations around that.
Thanks. And that's really helpful to understand that even though you're reporting that it's, I suppose those complaints aren't being resolved, it's not necessarily the case. It's just, yeah, the audit requirements of what you can say definitely has happened. Whereas, yeah, so it's great that it's being monitored closely. Yeah, cool. And then this is another financial question. So this is on page 41 of the report, or 58 of our agenda. Now these are, I think that they are Waters ones. The internal charges and overheads have increased quite a bit. So by 183,000 this quarter. And I noticed that the same thing happened, because that's stormwater. And the same thing I think has happened for expenses. Yeah.
I'll have to have a look at that, Councillor St Pierre, and get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there will be a reason. I just need to go find it.
Oh, no, that's cool. Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't send them through in advance. I'm struggling to get all of the reading done in that. And then I guess lastly, there's on page what's it? Page 47 of the report. That's page 64 of our agenda. There's some capital variances that are explained for support services. And if you actually do the numbers in your head, which is what I did, it didn't quite add up. So the capital changes are 4,495. And it says that there's, in that last paragraph, you've got a decrease in budget for the fleet program, 2.2 million, and then 2 million for the business accommodation strategy, but only 1 million of that is not required. So it doesn't quite add up to 4.2, it's only 3.2. So which means that there's, 1.2. Yeah, 64 of the agenda. Yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted a bit more clarity around that because it didn't quite.
I'll also have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's all. Appreciate the reforecasting process that's been going on there. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay. think we might be done. I've got a recommendation to receive the report and move. Where the heck am I? Wrong place. Receive the report and those 3 requests for budget changes, funding and request and budget changes on page 15. So do I have a mover, please? Thanks, Monty. Thanks, Marcus. All in favour?
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's carried. Thanks. Okay, so I need a motion to move to public excluded. Do I? Who the heck am I? Yes, I do. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Mike. All in favour?
Aye.
Contrary, no.